Good afternoon, everybody. It is 3 p.m. on Tuesday, so you know what time it is. If you've been hanging out with me for a while, you know it must be Zoom-i-Fication conversation time. And today, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, and it's the perfect time to talk about it. We're going to talk about giving back. You know, everybody's out there doing gift giving. There's all kinds of ways to give gifts. And sometimes giving a gift to your community or to your organization or to the world at large can be the best gift you can give. And today I have two people that are joining me that truly exemplify this. And I'm so lucky to know them. And I'm so glad they're coming on board to talk with us and to share some of their insights into what that means to them and ways that we can get involved and get invested in really giving back to the world. So if you're watching us live, you know what it is like. Put your comments in. I want to see them. We want to see them. If you have questions, if you have stories about how you give back to the world, please put it there. And if you're watching us on the replay, in the comments, guys, we want to see that too. So whether you're here with us now or here with us later, you are here with us and we want to hear from you. I am going to pull in my first guest right now. You've seen her before. I love her so much. Miri Upton, good afternoon. Hi.
Hey, good afternoon. How are you?
I am so good. Thank you for coming and playing with us today. This was a little on the last minute side, and you know, there's just people in my life that I can count on, and I'm so thrilled that you were willing to come and do this today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Such an exciting topic to talk about, and something so different.
Well, you know, and it's the season of lights for everyone right now. It's all about lighting up the world and being a part of being in the world. So whatever you are, whatever you think, this is really where we shine right now. And I know we talk about it in December, but there's so much about this that isn't just about the last month of the year.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more.
So while we're doing this, I want to bring in our next contestant. Julie Sadowski is the executive director of the Rockland Community Foundation. And this is her life, right? This is how she goes about doing things. And I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about what she does, but I'm going to bring her in now. So hi, Julie.
Hi, Jane. Hello, Miri, and hello, everybody out there. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks for coming to play with us today. I want you to take a few seconds and let everybody know what it is you do and how the Rockland Community Foundation is contributing, what they do.
Sure. So I'm the executive director of the Rockland Community Foundation, and we are one of over 850 community foundations whose reason for being is to help connect donors with those initiatives and not-for-profits that matter most to them. So we are independent. We've been around for about 14 years now, and we currently steward over 100 charitable funds. And these range from everything from scholarships to traditional donor-advised funds, field of interest funds. We have project funds, and that's basically where we serve as an incubator for startup not-for-profits. We can provide fiscal sponsorship as well. And of course, as our name indicates, we are a foundation, so we organically do granting back out to the community. We have about 3 different grants that we're currently working on right now. So many different layers, but community foundations are something that's been around for over 150 years and really are assets in amplifying philanthropy in any given community around the country.
So tell me really quickly why this is important, because I don't think people quite understand how difficult it is to have a charity, right? To want to be something where you can help people.
Right. So, you know, when I was talking about being an incubator, for example, I'll often get a phone call where somebody's like, or I'll be in a conversation, I'm really passionate about, X. And I really would love to start my own not-for-profit and be able to support this type of organization, and I'm very passionate about it. So there's many options. There's different ways you can do it. You could haul off to the IRS and fill out paperwork and be in touch with federal government agencies as well. It's expensive. It takes time to get the 501c3 3 designation as well. And then you have to think about other things. Probably a good idea to have legal counsel on board. You probably want to have somebody who has an accounting background, because these are things that you're going to have to deal with on an annual basis. And that's fine. And certainly there are some people who have the financial and connection wherewithal to do that on their own. However, there are many instances where it's just too overwhelming and too time consuming. So anyone who is interested in starting a charitable organization does have the option of going to a community foundation and becoming what is called a component fund of the foundation. So what that means is, by simply filling out a piece of paper, somebody could start a charitable organization under the umbrella of the Rockland Community Foundation, for example. They would share our tax exemption, and they would then enjoy all of the benefits of having legal advice through us, of not having to file tax returns at the end of the year because they would be compiled within our tax return. And then there's other benefits that we offer in terms of helping with fundraising, providing unique URLs for online fundraising. We take in the gifts, we do the grants back out as well, and we actually write the checks, and we also handle acknowledgement letters. So these are amazing services that community foundations provide within any given community.
Because to be an individual and to try to create that 501c, all of those pieces parts that you were just talking about, that's all required.
Correct.
So you as a person, you desperately want to support the muscular I'm going to say that wrong. You definitely want to support the MS Foundation. You desperately want to do something for the homeless in your area, or whatever your passion is. You are going to spend most of your time in the bureaucracy of trying to get that set up and maintain it.
Yes, then
right?
there's a lot of bureaucracy out there, no doubt about it. Another example I'll share with you is, someone who is consistently giving back to the community could very well make sense that they should consider opening a donor advised fund. And that would be a neat and tidy repository, if you will, where they could do all their grant making back out to the community. So there too, on an annual basis, when it comes to tax season, they don't have to scurry around and find, the canceled checks of all the donations they made through the year, because we would essentially be doing that on their behalf once they establish a fund. So, again, we're a not-for-profit in and of ourselves, as are all the other community foundations, and we're there really to amplify philanthropy. That's what it's all about. That's what our missions are.
I love that. The fact that there are so many people whose hearts are in the right place and who want to create that space in the world for people to give and to give in all the great ways. Miri, I know how much this means to you. I know how much you do for organizations throughout the year. What is it that you're looking for when you're kind of looking for where you want to give and how you want to give?
So I think for me, when I'm looking at an organization, obviously I'm first looking at their mission statement and trying to really ascertain, are they following their mission statement? Because I think that's one thing that, as a nonprofit, it's great to have the status. But if you're not doing what you say you're supposed to be doing, if I'm going to donate my time or my money, do I want it going to an organization that might not be, doing what they say they're going to do? The other thing I look at is, are they local? Are they regional? Are they, a national organization? And how can I make a difference with whatever I'm giving, whether it's a monetary contribution or, whether it's a contribution with my time? A lot of people think because it's a nonprofit, they're only looking for, a monetary donation. And there's so many nonprofits out there that could use literally, it's hands and feet on the ground doing, going back to the years ago, stuffing envelopes to, send out a campaign. It takes time. And if you have to pay a company to do that, it takes away from their bottom line. So really looking at it, if you're doing a monetary donation, making sure that they are adhering to their mission. And if you're paying with your, you know, sweat, then make it something that you enjoy. There's so many organizations just between Bergen County and Rockland County where you can you can donate your time. There's several food banks. There's organizations that work with people with special needs where they need someone to assist with whatever it may be. And if you're comfortable doing it, and or I know last year people were donating their time to deliver meals in Rockland County with Meals on Wheels, and it's a service that we don't think about because it goes on regardless of the season, the nature of the world that we live in. And if you can brighten someone's day just by doing something, it's so small, but it means so much to the people that are receiving. So for me, I really look at it, globally, how can I truly help, an organization.
One of the things that was really interesting, I was talking to someone today, and they said they were really, really interested in the organization's bottom line. They really wanted to know how much was going to support overhead and how much was going to support their mission. Are there ways to tell what that is? Are there ways to find out how they're allocating what is coming into them?
I can speak to that, Miri, probably as well. You can go on most nonprofits' websites. They will post what's called a 990 form. And on there, you can see a better breakout of what the percentages are. You can usually see what executive salaries are and whatnot. So that's one way to do it. There are also databases that are established. One is called, I think it's called
GuideStar.
Yes.
GuideStar, I think is probably the most widely used, and they rate the nonprofits. And there's multiple criteria that they're rating on the nonprofits. And again, just because they might have paid staff, there might be a reason they have paid staff. Like a volunteer can do, shoveling snow, but you might not want that same person that's shoveling snow to, help you put together your tax return. Or, there might be certain qualifications that a nonprofit, they need someone on staff that has specific, qualifications. So, again, while you think about the nonprofit world, right, people, raking in the money, yeah, there's some organizations that do. It is what it is. But if you find the organizations that might be, more grassroots within whatever, area that you're looking at, you're going to find a nonprofit that's truly, almost 100% is going towards the mission of the nonprofit.
Yeah, no doubt. And I've often said, when the day is done, a not-for-profit is in business to succeed. And you do want to have, the proper running of any given organization. But yeah, and to Miri's point, typically some of the national organizations may be a little more top-heavy, in terms of what their administrative costs are. But, most organically local not-for-profits are not, where, categorically I feel safe in saying we're not the highest paid people out there. We do this because we love to do this type of work.
Rob Genovese is here with us today. Hi, Rob.
Hello,
Thank
Rob.
you for coming on board. We're talking about giving back, and I think that that's something that is so much a part of who you are. So tell us in the chat, because I really want to know what do you love to give back to? What is it that lights you up, inspires you? We're looking at inspiring people. I'd love to hear, because Rob is amazing. I think it's fair to say you're not looking at anyone who has to handle money and has to handle advertising and has to handle all of those pieces parts and saying to those people, you can't have staff. I think back to the conversation we were having. That's unfair. That's something that doesn't hold water. You have to give them the ability to do that. But I do understand when people are saying, what is the percentage that's going to that piece's parts? And I love the idea of finding those local organizations that are feeding your community and helping feed them, right?
Exactly. And I think a lot of it when it comes down to, either people taking salaries, most grassroots nonprofits, when they initially start, their goal is to find volunteers to do everything from accounting to legal work to, marketing and PR. And I have to say, I think those are the ones that are truly the most successful on multiple levels, even if they're not raising, millions and millions of dollars a year. The fact that they can sustain themselves with the use of volunteers, like that makes a difference. So that's where I kind of lay my groundwork. When I'm looking at a nonprofit, and also there's so many things out there. Look at all of the schools, or most of like the schools either have a PTA, PTO, HSO. Those are nonprofit organizations. People don't realize that. Yeah, it's a parent organization, but a lot of them are nonprofits. And again, if they're run how they should be run, they can be profitable. And the people that get the best payout are the kids. So, you know, uh, being
I
able
want to
to,
share this. I want to share this because this came in from Rob. He's on the board of a local charity, but his heart lies with helping businesses, right? Because he feels like when you help people in business, you're helping the families, right? So, and really, I love the fact that it goes to my personal struggles. I think that's where we all live in our hearts, right? The things that we've experienced, or the things that have affected us, or the things that we want to be able to help other people with. There are and I love that he said that, because sometimes we think about it as, well, I need to give socks to people, or I need to feed people. You know what? There are underserved communities everywhere where there are organizations that are trying to help people get back into the workforce, or just get into the workforce, right? Helping them write resumes, or helping them learn how to talk to employers, or do a great interview. When you're looking at how you can give back and give back into the world, it's not a narrow channel. It's a really broad flow, right?
right. And just, looking at between, Bergen
Hi,
County, which
Jessica.
is where Jean and I are located, we have Bergen Volunteers. They are a nonprofit that matches people that are looking to volunteer with organizations that are looking for volunteers. So it's basically, you can go on an interview to volunteer and find something that fits what your specific needs are. Years ago, I volunteered at Pony Power Therapies, which is a therapeutic riding facility in Mawa. I was only there a couple of hours a week, but it was such a rewarding experience. And it wasn't anything, I was helping to get the horses ready in the morning and helping spot if they needed spotters. Like, it's not a glamorous job, so to speak, but you know what? It was really rewarding because I knew what I was doing behind the scenes was helping someone, have some independence and have that therapy that they needed. Looking at Rockland County with, your community foundation, you should have like billboards everywhere so that people know that you guys are around, because yeah, it is cost prohibitive sometimes and time prohibitive for someone to start a nonprofit.
Yes.
They have you as a resource that can help say, okay, yes, what you want to do, we can do, and help them vet it. How many lives are you potentially helping just with the small, again, a small donation, even $500 can make a difference to someone where, you never know. And just going into my own community, we have a Center for Food Action facility right in Mawa that we serve this, the northern part of Bergen County and into some of Passaic County. People don't realize it's, like to Jean's point, we're in a more affluent area, but there's still people that need
No
help in
doubt.
this.
You know,
I
and
wanna
I would say to anybody who's looking or who's watching right now, you know, whether it's the Rockland Community Foundation or a community foundation more local to you, you know, check out their website, because we, for example, steward over 100 funds. And I can all but guarantee there will be something that speaks to your point of passion, a fund that we already have where you could help contribute, or you could help volunteer. You know, we do that often. We'll get phone calls, people saying, you know, I want to volunteer, I want to make a donation. You know, for obvious reasons, I'll never say, oh, well, you need to donate here. But I will say, what is your passion? What speaks to you? You know, and then perhaps I can point them in the direction of a fund that represents that. So there's, you know, just so many opportunities within any given community to be more involved. You know, I've heard so many stories about people who were helped by a particular not-for-profit, and that's their motivation for getting more involved, because they want to pay it forward.
Right.
Well, I love that you said passion, because if you look at the comment, Jessica, who Jessica Bush runs Tutor Doctor of North Jersey and Rockland, and she is so passionate about educating children, making sure children have a great start, making sure families can have dinner in peace instead of argue about their kids having to get to their homework. Look, that is a gift, right? But her heart is in mentoring. She's working with people at William Patterson University. She's actively seeking mentors. She's so much a part of. She mentors people, and she's seeking mentors to mentor even more people, because her heart is in working with those students at any age, right? It's finding that thing that gets you up in the morning and inspires you is what keeps you going, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Especially during challenging times. I think we all learned that lesson, certainly during COVID.
and it's amazing what it is that you can do. I don't think people necessarily get it. Look, I'm a photographer, and I can give my services, right? I have worked with breast cancer survivors. I've worked with organizations that support them. I've worked with Oasis. I've worked with Center for Food Action, whether it's fundraisers at events that I'm holding for my business, or directly doing images for them. I have the ability at the Emmanuel Cancer Foundation. My skill set allows me to contribute. So that is something that is actually so easy to make happen. You just have to step out and do it. I want to ask, because I know everybody here is so great about that, the people that are watching us and you guys, what is it that you get? Because this is when gifts give back, right? What is it that inspires you? How do you feel, I should say, when you do this? And what keeps you doing it?
So I was volunteering for an organization that worked with domestic violence victims that were in the process of transitioning out of their situation into one of the shelters. And we were working with their pets. And, someone having to surrender their pet for a short amount of time, regardless, is just horrendous. And, having to do the intake and having to ask a lot of very specific questions and really get into what was going on with the situation that led them to leaving. It's humbling, but it's also at the same time, like, you're truly helping someone, because if you show them the compassion and the empathy of, here's what we're going to do for you, and how we're going to really help you and your pet that you have to temporarily surrender, it gives them that opportunity to know that there's people, really, they don't know us, we didn't know them, and there's was very little contact, but they know that there's someone in their corner fighting for them to be able to move on to the next step in their life. And I think, to me, that's what's most rewarding, is to watch the people that it's truly helping. And they might not know how much, they might not realize that we know how much it's helping them right then and there. And they might not know themselves how much it's truly going to help them, because they're in their own personal struggle at that time. So, I think that's really, it's rewarding to see, someone have that like sense of relief that they know they can take care of themselves because someone else is going to help take care of their pets.
What about you, Julie?
I could come out with all the usual platitudes, but for me personally, it's very energizing and invigorating, and it's usually a very grounding experience, because we've all had those days where something is just eating away at you, and you're like, I can't deal, and then you step out of your own realm and you start helping somebody else. And boy, you usually, by the time you get back home, where chances are all of these issues were starting, you're like, it's just, this is such a small piece of, what the world is all about. So it really helps reframe things. And, I think particularly during COVID, it helps you feel like you're part of a bigger community. And, there's also a social aspect to it. You meet other like-minded people usually when you're volunteering. You meet new people, you hear stories. It, I think, enables you to become a better storyteller, to be able to share the experience. So there's so many different facets and layers to it.
Rob said there's a personal fulfillment that takes place and makes me feel like my life is making a difference. And that is central to feeling like there's bigger things in the world. One of the things that we talk about so much is this idea of what's the pinnacle, right? Like the people that feel like they're at the top, right? And when you are in it with people and you see what's going on in the world, it opens your eyes to where you are, to where they are, to what's out there. Yes, I think there are many charities that love it when you open up your checkbook. A lot of the food drives will say, please give us money. A lot of the places that are purchasing things for people are like, please give us money, because when we get money, we can then buy in bulk. We can do quantity discounts and we can purchase exactly what we need. And that is huge. If you can do that, if you can open up your checkbook, that is huge. But if you can show up for distribution day, if you can be there when they're giving out those kits or giving out those backpacks full of food, if you can just, I was at the Center for Food Action, I was doing photos for them. And there was a gentleman who showed up to pick up his backpack. And the conversation about his life and where he'd been and what he was hoping to do with his life and what this was going to do for him, that he could feed his family, changes you. It just changes you. So to give back of yourself, as well as giving back of your money, or just giving of yourself, because I understand it, but it's so much a part of finding out what's really happening in the world and being a part of that. I'm going to throw up Jessica's. I get to make an impact in people's lives. So the young women who are my mentees can have the opportunity to change the trajectory of the legacy in their families, right? When they can see a light, they can break patterns, they can improve their self-esteem. All of that is so important. And it can be something very little that you're doing. You can feel like, well, I'm just talking to them. But remember like if you walk into a room and no one's talking to you, you know how you feel, right? When you're feeling small, or when you're feeling like you're not noticed, when you're feeling like the world is so overwhelming, having someone crack open a door and shine a little light makes so much difference.
And that's a gift. I'll share a very quick story. This happened a bunch of years ago. I ran into somebody from high school I hadn't seen in well over 25 years. And he didn't remind me because I didn't remember, but he told me of an instance in class back in high school where I said something very kind to him, and how it stuck with him his whole life. And I don't remember the interaction, but boy, did that stick with me. It was something so small that I apparently did that made an impact and was embedded in this guy's mind, and that's a great example of a gift, and I think to your point, Jean, it's the end of the year where we're kind of looking back on what we did this year. Maybe we want to make some charitable, gifts as well. But, to be able to really think back and say, what gifts have I given this year to others? It doesn't have to be in the form of money.
And sometimes I think it's so much more important. I mean, I love, that was kind of Brett. Oh, hi, Brett. Your time is just as important, maybe even more important than your money. And, Jessica we need to discuss this more. It's about sharing of yourself, not just giving your money. And it's funny because a long time ago, I was in a really dark place. I had moved to California. I was feeling very lonely. I was feeling very lost. And it was really a dark place for me. And I thought, well, I want to go and play with puppies. That'll make me feel better. And I started donating time at an animal shelter. And they had a computer system that they were putting in, and they didn't understand it. And back in corporate America, I was a technical trainer. That's, and I designed software. And so I kind of jumped in and I was helping them. And I really felt like I was adrift and I didn't know who I was and I didn't know where I was going to go. And, it was either me sitting in my house feeling sorry for myself, or it was me doing something that was going to make life better. Right. And I really thought I was making life better for the dogs. And after we were done, because I'd worked with the young woman who was going to run the system, and she was really struggling, and I got her to the point where she could use the system, and I will never forget. I'm going to cry. So at the end of it, she looked at me and she said, "I want to be you." And I was like, "Excuse me?" And she said, I want to do what you do. I want to be you. I'm so excited about this. And I never would have known that I could do this. And I was not doing anything other than just helping out. And I had kept in touch with that girl for a while, and she went back to school. She did all this. It never in my world, right? You never know what your moment in time is going to change for the person that you are talking to. So it does really. So for me to answer, what does it do for you? Well, it makes me tear up, seriously. But it really does connect you to something that's bigger than yourself. Right? So Julie, talk to me a little bit about, in this area, like, I know you have a whole list of things that people can do around this time. Are there places that are really looking for people right now?
I think food insecurity, sadly, has been one of the common denominators of COVID and is still in place. And, I mentioned we do grants back out to the community, and we recently gave out about $7,000 worth of ShopRite and Sarah gift cards. And, we delivered them to the different food pantries. And, their numbers are out of sight still. And people are still reeling financially, and the job market has changed, and the price of, consumables is up, and there's supply demands. And I think, off the top of my head, food insecurity, is certainly prominent, I believe, in most communities. I think, that's something that people can do to help, and certain organizations that advocate for, those people who are underrepresented in our communities. I think there's great need there. There's a lot of divisiveness, within the country, let alone our individual communities. So those are two things off the top of my head that I'm seeing in the community.
I do want to say, I love that you said divisiveness, because I do want to say that is truly the thing that will change all of us, is if, when you're doing this, you're actually speaking to the people. If you're listening to what they're saying about how they got where they are, if you're listening to what's going on around you not making judgments, but listening to these people, you begin to understand so much more about what's going on. And you will hear things that you never thought you would hear. Because I think we walk into things with such preconceived notions.
Yes.
And then we find out that it's just people. It's people that are just like you. And tomorrow it could be you.
Right. And I was just going to say that you never know when you might be in the receiving end of, some kind of need or service. So, to kind of know what goes on behind the scenes, so that if you're ever in that situation, and no one expects to be in that situation, you at least can, you can navigate it, and you can also advocate for others so that they don't necessarily feel that, stigma of, oh my gosh, I'm going to a food pantry to get food. Like, it's there, and there's a reason it's there, and it's there to help people get back, up on their feet.
Yeah.
So,
Another interesting thing that I've heard and I've seen is, within certain school districts within our community and certain regions, there are, a lot of students who don't have access to technology, and even though, remote learning seems to, be somewhat of a thing of the past, the kids are back in school, technology is what they need. And there's a lot of areas where there's not internet service. So these kids don't have the ability to do their homework appropriately. Those are some recurring issues that we see as well. And then their parents are working 3 different jobs. Their parents aren't available to help them with their homework. It's a vicious cycle.
When I was at Oasis over the pandemic cycle, again, the things that touch your heart, but these were people who, because there were multiple children in a home where maybe they had one laptop and they had to share it for school. And so they couldn't get their schoolwork done, and they were going to the fire station to pick up packets of printed work for the week and taking it home and having to try to teach themselves because they couldn't even log into a classroom because which child was going to be logging in when. It was so sad. And, Jessica can probably, I think Jessica had to leave, but Jessica, from her position can probably reiterate the sort of damage that occurred to these underserved children that were already struggling, that have to catch up on so much of what they've missed. So if you have the ability to be a part of that solution, that's going to change the complexion of this country. That's going to just give so much life to these kids. Just because someone is saying, we have faith in you, we believe in you, and we want to help you. That's so huge. The other part of all of this conversation is we're adults sitting here, but we have children. And you walk around and people are talking about, my kid is so entitled, or my kid talks back about this, or my kid has 19 video games and doesn't know what to do. Your kid needs to be involved.
It's a great lesson for kids to be involved in philanthropy. We actually have some fund holders who have donor advised funds with us, and they will make it a family activity every year to determine who should get their grant. They will sit down as a family and they'll talk about it, and they will make a determination on where they distribute their money each year.
So Miri left because she had to go. So I just want y'all to know, Miri came on board for the first half hour, but she actually she has to go be a mom. So we're going to let her go be a mom. And I'm thrilled that she was here with us. So Miri, I know you're going to watch this on the replay. Thank you so much for playing with us, but we're going to keep the conversation going. But yes, getting your children involved, showing them what's going on in the world, showing them how things are, not just what happens in their roof and in their school, but what's going on across the country, really helps them. Brett, tech is a real issue. The community needs to come together and support those families. Mawa is a great example of how a community came together. Brett is such a big part of the Mawa community, and they have been doing amazing things. it is so true. Communities coming together, creating spaces where they can support the people in their community. When it's one-to-one or group-to-group, it makes a difference. And you create an atmosphere where people feel like they can come forward. It's not shameful. They're just there because it's available. There are people that want to help. It's available, and we're here. Rachel, hi Rachel. I'm so glad you're here. It's our tradition that the last night of Hanukkah, each of our kids chooses a cause to donate to.
Perfect.
That's wonderful. I had done this thing with my child before Christmas, because Christmas was when all the junk would come in the door, right? That was when, aunts, uncles, grandparents, you were going to get toys. And so a week or two before Christmas, it was, okay, let's go through and figure out the things that you're not vested in, or the things that, you can give away. We'll make space. So we'll give this to the children who can play with it, because you're not. That's how it will be. And I took my child to donate it. And the first year it was pulling teeth. And then when he got to see the children, got to see how they were being used, got to see how they were loved, got to see what was happening with them, talk to the people about where they were going to go, we came home and there were 3 more boxes. I was like, Mom, I don't need this. Mom, can we give this? Mom, is this okay? It was eye-opening, because it ceased to be I'm giving up my stuff and became people are going to benefit from my stuff. Right?
Total reframe. Absolutely.
So I love that, Rachel. It's such a great idea. However you can get your children invested and involved.
Yep.
So, Julie, how can they find you? Where do they go to find you and your organization?
So our website, of course, is always a good place to learn more about what we do at the Rockland Community Foundation. And that URL is www.rocklandgives.org. You can Google Rockland Community Foundation, of course. The phone number is on there. It's 845-947-2868. And my email, which is always a great way to reach me, is Julie, Julie, @rocklandgives.org. And I always love talking to people about what their interests are and any ideas that they may have. So I'm always available.
It's so interesting, because I think people have this idea that they should just be able to, I have a check, I'm going to give my money, it's all good. And they don't think about all the places it has to go, or all the people that have to touch it, or all the ways that it needs to be monitored.
Yes, there's a lot of fiscal responsibility in philanthropy. We've all heard horrible stories about things that take place, around the country. And, you want to make sure that it's managed appropriately and stewarded appropriately. And there's a lot of intricacies to charitable giving. I mean, there isn't a day that goes by that I don't learn something new, and I've been doing this for some time. As a matter of fact, before I came on this Zoom, I was on a Zoom for the Council of Foundations. It's a trade association for foundations, particularly community foundations. And it was an hour-long Zoom about legal questions within the realm of community foundations. So I learn something new every day, for sure.
And there's so much happening right now in the world, right? There's so many reasons why people desperately need people to get on board and to help out.
Yes, absolutely. I'd given a presentation a month or so ago, and I, went to look up some statistics and whatnot. And it's very interesting over the past year and a half or so. Corporate giving went down a bit, but individual giving skyrocketed during COVID, which I think is really, really telling. Those of us who have not-for-profits, we're sad to see the corporate money go. It's, usually one of the key stabilizers of our operating budgets, but people have stepped forward. They want to give. They want to help. Innately, I think we're good people, right?
Right. And I think there was like that whole time frame where the tax code changed around donations and giving, right?
Yeah, it did. And believe me, I don't pretend to be a tax expert or an investment expert for that matter, but there is something called tax batching. And I'll give you the example that was given to me. So let's say, for argument's sake, that you give $5,000 every year to your alma mater. It might make sense, and there's a lot of other variables, and always talk to your tax and advisors and accounting advisors. But in that scenario, it might make sense to start a donor advised fund with, let's say, $25,000, because you know over the next 5 years you're going to give $5,000 anyway. You may be able to realize some tax benefits, and then that money is in a fund and is ready to be distributed through the form of grants. You know, whether it's through a community foundation or a Schwab or Fidelity. So there are some tax benefits to potentially bundling your money up front, depending on where you fall.
I remember when the tax code changed, the organizations that I was working with really felt an immediate impact from the business organizations, because businesses weren't getting the kind of tax breaks that they used to. And so they had rolled back on their giving. And it was such a hit to them. And they were really looking for ways to reinforce that, to find ways to replace those dollars.
Yep.
It is gratifying to know, in the midst of what we were all going through, that individuals realized that this hole needed to be filled.
Yeah, no doubt. And, you know, it's funny. Somebody once said to me, oh, you know, when I started this job, which was almost 3 years ago, somebody said to me, well, good luck with that, because, you know, trying to get gifts from individuals, yada, yada, yada. And the reality is, I believe, most people don't give gifts for the tax write-off. It's like, I love this term. It's the point of passion. It's wanting to give back. Yes, there are those of significant means, where it is a considerable factor. But, you know, for the majority of us, you're doing it for a total different reason. I don't know, you know, and this is another really interesting phenomenon. You know, how many of us sit with our cell phones and you'll be on Facebook and somebody's doing a fundraiser and you're like, oh, you know what? It's like an impulse purchase. You sit there, you swipe, and you've made a donation, you know, and we're not doing that for the tax write-off. Sure, you get the letter, but it's because you want to do something good. And that's an interesting phenomenon, which I could go off on, you know, a whole other tangent about how social media has impacted the world of charitable giving. Huge impact.
But it does give you, and I don't want to make it like so commercial, but when I work with my people on marketing, I talk about that end cap philosophy, where you want to make sure that there's stuff at the end of the aisle where it catches their eye and they grab it because it's easy access. And I do think that's what social media has done for individuals. It's made that a sort of easy access point of, I feel good, I've just contributed to the Cancer Society, or I've just contributed to this person who's doing a walk or whatever. It does feel really good. And you do know the people that you're helping or what you're doing in it. And it's going to call to you because it's a friend of yours, or it's an organization that you follow or that you believe in. It's incredibly important because the big companies do it for the tax write-off.
Yes.
So since the company's looking at it from a financial perspective, and I'm not saying that there aren't civic-minded companies. I'm not saying that they don't want to do it to help the world, but they are looking at their bottom line. And when they lost a lot of those tax incentives, they said, well, we're going to do it. We're just not going to do it at the same level because it doesn't have the same. So it became more difficult to fund through those sources. So the fact that people have more avenues to step up, and they're stepping up with their passion, that's a really great thing, that people are saying, I can help here.
Absolutely. You know, and I'll say, you know, I can speak more about Rockland County. You know, over the years, we've lost businesses to Orange County, to Bergen County. You know, we're the smallest county in New York State. But there still are a goodly amount of corporations here who even have a dedicated employee who's responsible for corporate giving. And they do take it seriously. They do try to engage their employees in the concept of building a culture of philanthropy. So, my hat's off to those. I think there are many companies that recognize that it's more than the bottom line, and it's important to have an engaged workforce that helps the community, especially the communities where many of them live.
I think as we kind of near the end of the hour, I really want to say thank you to everybody who's been a part of this, everybody who's been here with us. If you have more comments, if you have more inspiration, if you have things that you are passionate about, throw it in the chat and let us know. I'm so happy Jessica put the information about the mentor program. Please follow through on that. If you are out there watching us on the replay or you're watching us live right now, tell us what it is that you are passionate about, where we can go, how we can make a difference that you know about. We want to know. This is a great way to do this. This isn't about the end of the year. This is about living your year. This is about gifts that give back all year long. And you can give the gift of yourself. I think that's what so much of this was. So maybe that's the challenge we can close this out with. Julie, thank you for coming here and having this conversation with me. It means so much to me, but the thing that would be great if we walked out of this inspiring people to pick something that they want to get up in the morning and do, whether it's once a month, whether it's once a quarter, whether it's, I'm just going to do this big push for one weekend, or whatever it is that you decide to do, whatever you do, it will be one more thing that makes the world a better place.
Well said. And thank you for inviting me. I enjoyed this, Jean. Thank you.
It was great. I'm so happy you were here. And for everybody, you know how this goes. If you were watching us live, I love you. And if you're watching us on the replay, I love you too. And I know you're out there in your jammies with your glass of wine because you text me and you tell me. So, so thank you so much for watching. We will be back next Tuesday. I hope you are having a wonderful, wonderful week. For those of my friends who have just closed out on their Hanukkah celebrations, love to you. And for everybody who's celebrating all the things that they are celebrating in this season, it is the season of light for a reason. We illuminate the love this month, and let's keep it going throughout the year. Love you all. See you next week at this time. Bye, Julie. Have a wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.